Hey everyone, as a part of our series of frequently asked questions getting answered this month, I wanted to take on one of the big ones, which is what is depression and what is anxiety? Okay, so there's a lot of different answers to this question, but I want to try to give you the most helpful answer, okay, the one that could actually empower you to take better control of your mental health. So firstly, let's talk about what depression and anxiety are not. Okay, first of all, they do not have to be permanent lifetime sentences. Okay, they do not have to be with you for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, a lot of people do deal with depression and anxiety for their lifetime simply because they haven't implemented the right approach to turn it around. Secondly, depression and anxiety are not a myth or made up. I want to be very clear about that. Okay, what you're dealing with is very real. It's a very serious issue. It's something that we can't ignore. It's something that we can't just say, oh, toughen up and do what you need to do. That's not really an elegant approach. We need to make sure that we're approaching it with care, but we need to make sure we're approaching it with the mindset of getting it solved as well. Number three, I would also say that depression and anxiety are not just tied to your genetics. This is a very important thing. It can be a useful thing for us to look at, but in my experience, your genetic history amounts for less than 5% of the most valuable conversation around how we actually turn around your depression and your anxiety, okay? Meaning that I've dealt with plenty of people who have had multiple branches on their family tree with very serious mental and emotional challenges who they themselves have still been able to create a sustainable recovery, okay? So it's not necessarily just a product of your genetics. It is also not a product merely of your biochemistry, okay? And here's why. You may know, or perhaps you know very intimately, somebody who has been on antidepressants or been on pharmaceuticals to try to curb depression or anxiety and is still dealing with depression or anxiety, okay? In my experience, I've never had a single person who's ever told me that some combination of pharmaceuticals has completely eliminated their depression or their anxiety for a prolonged period of time, meaning over a period of 12 months. I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me that that's been the case, but it's never happened for me. I'm sure it may exist out there, but out of the thousands of cases I've seen, it just hasn't happened. So we can't simply write off depression and anxiety as just being a part of your biochemistry. It's a completely inhumane approach, I believe, to simply give somebody a label and a diagnosis and a set of pills and say, here you go, you're on your way. I don't think that's very humane or really pays much attention to the needs of the individual. Okay, so what is depression or anxiety? Well, anxiety and depression can be best understood, I believe, as a conditioned emotional pattern in the nervous system. Okay, a conditioned emotional pattern in the nervous system. So I very often give this metaphor of a jukebox, right? You type in a sequence of numbers or letters in a jukebox, brings forward a CD, plays the CD. Well, very similarly, your subconscious brings forward emotional, cognitive, and behavioral patterns and plays them automatically as you're navigating through your environment, right? So for instance, waking up and feeling depressed, even though you just woke up, there's no good reason for you to feel that way, but you do. Or having an anxiety attack when you go to drive your car to work, for example. Or not being able to sleep because your thoughts are restless and they continue to persist, right? So it's all those examples of an old pattern continuing to repeat against your wishes, right? A pattern of thought, a pattern of emotion, or a pattern of behavior. So if we were able to take that CD out of the jukebox, scratch it up, right? Interrupt it, meaning we change the neuroassociations of it so it no longer is able to be automatic for you, that creates an opportunity for us to create a new pattern in that place. Okay, so I can speak from my own experience, having been in the past suicidal for several years, consumed with suicidal negative thoughts on a daily basis for a very prolonged period of time. And now I haven't experienced real depression or real anxiety in well over a decade. That's a profound experience of being able to interrupt and replace an old pattern. And I didn't get that through therapy, counseling, or medication. Okay, it came from a profound understanding of the subconscious and how it works. So if you think of depression and anxiety as a pattern, not as a part of your identity, that creates a very liberating division between what the real problem is versus what you thought the problem was. It's not that you're broken. It's not that you're permanently disabled. Okay, it's not that you have a permanent disease. Don't mistake me for saying this isn't real, because it is. But that's also not to say that it is a permanent lifetime sentence unless you allow it to be. So I hope that adds some clarity. I'm sure this is going to spark some conversation, so I would love to hear your comments below. Let's engage in some conversation. Take care for now.